So with that said, let's get started and get into our Monday question. The Monday question was, what is the deal with roadmaps? Why do so many teams want them? Now, Steve, I have to say, we had fun coming up with a question, making it a Seinfeld question, and nobody even questioned the style.
Well, but just now when you said it, I thought you were going to do a voice, what's
What?
the deal with roadmaps,
Well, maybe I should have let you introduce it because you do that better than I do.
Oh, I don't know that I do, but okay.
What's with roadmaps? Sorry,
You
there we
can
go.
take the reservation, you just can't keep the reservation.
So why do so many teams want them? And Paul's been a really good contributor. We've had him a couple times on the call, but he when he comes in with answers, he always has some pretty good ones. He said sales and marketing teams want to know what's coming in the product to be able to sell it. Customer success teams want to know so they can keep existing customers happy. Management wants to know what the product team is doing. I build roadmaps in 3 buckets: now, next, beyond, which seems to be a fairly typical, maybe different terms for some people. And I don't commit to a timetable of when I'll deliver the items in beyond, but it's a living prioritized list of the items we'll be working on, probably thematic as well. Carol Ramshenko, who a good supporter of product growth leaders, chimed in, agree with Paul. It's better for planning for multiple teams and a way to show upcoming priorities. Steve, I want to start with you. We talk about the roadmap, right? The 3 phases, whatever. But you've been very instrumental in my philosophy on roadmaps. I'd love to, when you started breaking roadmaps into multiple phases and internal, external, talk to me about the use cases you were thinking about.
Well, to me, the roadmap is the magic document that implies that we can do more than we have the resources to do. And, salespeople say, I need the roadmap so I can show the client features that, we're going to deliver. And I remember working actually with my CFO who said, don't let them do that. When you start talking about futures, you start pushing deals down the road. You're kicking the can. But nonetheless, over the years, I've seen people lock themselves into no-win scenarios. When you say, in January we're going to work on this, and in February we're going to work on this, and in March we're going to work on this, that doesn't take into account change. And I remember vividly pitching to the sales team, here's the roadmap, and they said, okay, are you committing to that? And I said, yes, I am. I will commit to you right now that we will do this and nothing else, no matter what happens in the market. And they're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, so you want this to be more thematic? And they're like, well, no, we want a commitment, but we also want, to change it. And I don't know if any of them heard themselves say it. It was just so ridiculous.
They never do.
Yeah. And, that got to, Steve's rule of resourcing, which is we allocate 100% of our resources to the roadmap and somehow expect to use the other 100% of our resources for special projects. But anyway, after sharing detailed plans with executives and salespeople, and then having things change, and now all of a sudden I'm in 1,000 conversations about why are you de-scoping, or why are you missing your dates? I'm like, screw this nonsense. We're going to say, here's what we are going to ship soon, and I know we are because we're working on it right now. Then I have queued up for the dev team what's next, based on business priority. And then everything else is science fiction. We call it beyond or future. But if I haven't scoped it out, then we have no idea if it's ever going to be delivered. But I do know, here's a set of work I've defined. Here's a set of work I know development is working on. And one of my other lines is something Mark Twain said: stick to the truth, it's easier to remember. I know development's working on this, and I know we will see it soon. That's what I know to be true.
Can we get Mark Twain to say that again so everybody in this country will hear it?
Indeed.
You know, it's interesting because you talk about the commitment phases. I had done some work with a large fintech on roadmaps, and we were sitting down in a working group. All these people were VPs of product or higher, and we were talking about, okay, the internal roadmap, which they were doing quarter, half, whole. And we got to this conversation around, and it's weird thinking because we were doing it in a conference room, and that was like a conference room. But we were having this debate on what's the level of certainty based in each of those. And one of the groups was very agile and making web-based things that was acquired. And they're like, our confidence level is 90% for Q1 and 70% for Q2, because they were so agile and doing that type of stuff. And the big banking software core group was, oh, we're 95% confident at second half next year. Because theirs was such a waterfall based process and it was a major core, they had to lock in things that this was like going to the moon. They had to lock in requirements so far ahead. And it's like, gosh, how do you manage these expectations? That's what we were trying to do, was manage expectations.
Mhm.
And it was a widely different place to do it. I want to go to some more of the answers.
Well,
Go ahead,
before you
Steve.
do, I'm sorry, you threw that on the table and I can't let it lay. We've forgotten waterfall. We've turned it into, it's, to me, waterfall is like the 60s. You know, we look back on the 60s as this wonderful time where the music was so good, it was a perfect time in America as long as you were a white man, right? But you look back on the 60s and you're like, oh my God, in 1968, the country went crazy. Seems like everybody was on drugs. And you look at the hair, it's just like, get a haircut. But anyway, we look back on waterfall with this great fondness now. And yet we've forgotten that the chaos report started coming out 20 or maybe 30 years ago. And they were saying routinely, we are missing our dates and we are missing our scope, even in the world of waterfall. And I truly believe that Agile was created because waterfall was fundamentally flawed. If you go back to Winston Royce's original article that articulated waterfall, he said in the article, which apparently no one read, they saw they were executives, right? So they looked at the picture, right? The picture was requirements, specs, QA, ship, or whatever it was. But in the text, he said, this will never work in real life. And the real problem with waterfall is we learn at the beginning and we learn at the end and we don't learn in the middle. So Agile was really created to say, you know what, nobody seems to know what they want. So I'm going to work on a little bit of stuff, show you where I am and see if you like it. And if you do, we'll keep doing more of it. And if you don't, we'll stop and we won't get off path. So anyway,
well, and that's where the world of change orders came in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Well, and probably Agile versus waterfall and what's the optimum from a product management view could be a topic for the future. I'll put that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take us down the whole Agile path.
Well,
but whenever you look at a roadmap and say I have anything more than 50% confidence, I think you're just lying to yourself. I can tell you though, I know development is working on this stuff in my soon column, and unless something really weird happens, which I'm not expecting, I can guarantee that that'll come out this quarter. Other than that, who anticipated COVID? Who anticipated iPad would be a relevant business tool? I mean, who anticipated that we would all be looking at SaaS solutions instead of on-premise solutions? The world is in constant flux and we need to adjust to changes in the market. And
the thing is that, when you're talking with salespeople, just to pile on a little bit, is that when you're talking with sales, they want to know more definitively short term. Same with marketing, what's material, all those things. There's a lot of machinery that runs. And then using the near term is actually a tool for the product manager to kind of go to their customers and say, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? And you can actually go with wireframes or whatever to like validate some of these things and actually reprioritize with your customers, bringing those back up, and you have to do that in a timely manner, but you you need to be able to do that in order to increase that definitiveness of what you're trying to do next, because all of your development teams, they run all the different levels, different times and all those. They're going to be like, okay, what's next? And you have to come up with, why are we doing this? And to get them excited. And the why part within the roadmap gets dropped very quickly. It's just like, it's very bland, feature. It's like, why are we doing this? And having that tool, the roadmap turns into the tool to have those conversations that you will actually change.
Yeah.
And roadmaps will change.
No, and they need to, right? Based on learning, right? If we're talking about ongoing learning and curiosity, we've shared those terms multiple times in these calls about what we're looking for in product management. As things change, whether it's COVID, whether it's trade wars or whatever it may be.
Business opportunity. There's a new business opportunity that shows up that you're like, you know what, here's a new business opportunity we need to go attack. Or, hey, we learned these things that we need to be able to monetize more on the data that we're collecting. Let's figure out what we're doing there. And it may require some work to be done to make that, into fruition. So those things change, and that those conversations, as a product person, those conversations across all your stakeholders need to happen.
And just in this conversation so far, we've hit on some of the good, what the ideals of waterfall. You need to have a vision of where you're going so people know where it is and there's a direction people are aligned behind, but also the good of agile, where we want to be able to adjust where we go. I tend to be an agile fall person, where it's like somewhere in the middle. You need to have some of that. I'm a strategic planning type guy, so you have to have that vision of where things are going for guidance, but you also need to be able to react and have some agility. I'll use agility instead of agile because you're wanting to adapt with that.